Hello and welcome to the Yggdrasil podcast. I am your host, Tosker. Today I have two big pillars of the community for Zelda, Hyrule Gamer and Bandit Games. Thank you both for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, anything Zelda's always good.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into it, I need to make a disclaimer about the leaks. The Tears of the Kingdom art book leaked a while ago, and I made the decision not to discuss those leaks on my videos. I believe both Bandit and Hyrule Gamer have similar policies on their channel. However, those leaks are out there and they are interesting, and there's a large group of people who are eager to talk about them. The Tears of the Kingdom subreddit is flooded with leaked material to the point where I think pretty much anyone that wanted to see the leaks has seen them. I think it's probably a good thing for people that want to discuss and speculate on leaks to have the space to do so. So while I'm not comfortable showing those on my main actual videos, I am comfortable speculating on them in an open discussion space like this podcast, provided that the audience is given ample spoiler warning so they can avoid it if they want to. Hyrule Gamer and Bandits have agreed to share their thoughts on the leaks during this podcast, so, consider this your final spoiler warning. I won't be showing any images, but we will be talking about some of the things that are shown and their potential implications. Okay? Last spoiler warning to the audience. Let's move on. Let's do a little basic introduction. Bandit, can you tell me a little bit about your channel and the secret behind why your video editing is better than mine?
Better? Oh boy, we're starting off with the lies. All right, I'll keep it going. No, I'm just kidding. I run a couple channels, but the one that I'm representing here is like a gaming lore channel that focuses pretty majorly on Zelda. Although I do have a Metroid video in the works, so hey, there's that. As far as video editing goes, let me give you a little masterclass. You basically just put a picture up if you don't know what to put up. There you go. That's editing, Bandit editing 101 right there. And actually, disclaimer, do not pay attention to me. I don't have any good tricks. I just kind of, taught myself this stuff. Wait. I've checked out a couple of your videos, though. You do not have bad editing, sir.
I appreciate the lies that you tell to my face. I really do. But no, I vastly prefer your videos. I think you have a knack for it, even if you're not trying all that hard to do it.
Well, I appreciate it.
So what are you doing with this Metroid video? I'm a big Metroid fan myself. What's it about?
Oh, cool. Well, a couple months ago, I started doing like boss lore compilation things. Honestly, it's like, I don't know. I personally find it pretty useful, and so I just decided to start covering my favorite games, which are Zelda, obviously, with just compilations of bosses and games. Mm-hmm. And with Metroid games, that's one of the biggest claims to fame about the games are all the diversified bosses and the iconic, obviously there's the 2D Metroid games that have some of the repeating bosses, Kraid, Ridley, the actual Mother Brain, stuff like that. But then again, Metroid Prime just came out, and so that is what I'm going to be focusing on first and foremost. So we're going to be covering all the boss lore in Metroid Prime.
Hyrule Gamer, do you like Metroid? Do you know about Metroid?
I know a little bit. I played, I believe it's Metroid Prime 3, the one on the Nintendo Wii.
Right.
Corruption. Nice.
Yeah, I think so. I've played that, and that's about as far as my Metroid goes.
That's unfortunate.
I have a video for you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've been recommended constantly by friends, peers, even family, actually, to play Metroid on the Switch, particularly Dread. And it feels like I'm getting ever so closer to actually doing it.
Well, if you're gonna do it, I would definitely recommend the new Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm a person that typically doesn't like remasters and remakes. Like I'm famous for it on my channel. I like even the smallest thing. It's like it goes against the original intent. I'm very nitpicky when it comes to that. Even the Wind Waker HD thing, I don't like the bloom and the lighting. Some of the slight color choices. So there's just a bunch of stuff bother me about it. Not enough to ruin the experience, but even in the Wind Waker HD, I'm nitpicky. But the Metroid Prime Remastered is so good. It's kind of shocking. Like I had basically no complaints. It's just a wonderful experience all around.
I think one of the most shocking things about it to me is the just the fact that they managed to not only upgrade the original game's meshes and models, which is, I guess, more in tune with being a remake than a remaster. But they also managed to get some solid 60 frames per second gameplay on the Switch, which is like, I mean, here we are 6 years into its lifespan, and games that the Switch launched with were not in 60 frames per second. So I don't know. I'm just, it's a spectacle of engineering, prowess.
It's kind of amazing.
From the, it is.
It's kind of amazing because, like, I think it probably is the best looking Switch game out there right now.
I would agree. I would agree pretty definitively.
And it's kind of, I'm touched by the humility of calling it a remaster when, like you said, it has a lot of elements that would qualify it for a full-on remake.
Straight up new models. Yeah.
Okay, Hyrule Gamer, what's your favorite Zelda game, and which one did you start with?
I'll start with my favorite. Twilight Princess, undoubtedly, is my favorite, but it's not my first, actually. My first is... It's a little bit of uncertainty just because it was that long ago. It was either the Minish Cap or Ocarina of Time. I've tried to do some fact-checking with family members, but no one can seem to remember whether I played Ocarina of Time or Minish Cap first. It was kind of at the exact same time. We both had them in the house. I think the first one I played fully myself was Minish Cap, but I'm not sure if I actually started Ocarina of Time before it, so I always have this little debate with myself which one the first was. I want to say Minish Cap, though.
What about you?
Which is actually quite an interesting one to start.
What about you, Bandit? What was your first Zelda game?
It was Ocarina.
Yeah, which one's your favorite?
And, Ocarina.
Yeah.
So, it was a pretty short conversation
nice.
there. I just, I'm a what do you call it? I'm just a nostalgic geek, really, in my heart of hearts. And, like, I admit that, but also I do just enjoy the hell out of Ocarina of Time's story. I think it is primarily what captivated me when I was a kid. It was just so deep, And to this day, I still prefer it over most other Zelda stories, even though they're all... See, that's the thing. It's hard saying one Zelda game is, quote unquote, your favorite, because, it implies that there are better ones and worse ones. And I don't like necessarily doing that, even though I guess objectively it's true. But, everything's subjective when it comes down to it. I think all Zelda games are really, really, really cool. And Twilight Princess and Wind Waker would be tied for second place for me, and that is a very close second place. I've never played Minish Cap, though.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. It's a really great one.
It was the Kinstones. I kept getting caught up over, like, I don't know, I think there was this one time that I went through some dungeon, and there was a chest at the end, and I opened it, and I was like, cool, piece of heart time, let's go, I know how this works. And it was like a Kinstone. And I'm pretty sure I closed the game and didn't pick it back up. And I can't really explain why, I don't know what it is about the Kinstones. I know that's like a...
Well, they suck. They do suck. That's probably what
I was going to say,
they're a bit tedious.
I've heard from the community that if there's like one thing you're going to complain about Minish Cap, it's the Kinstones. And so I don't want to be basic, but on the other hand, I am extremely basic. So there you go. I don't have anything against it, though. I definitely am planning on going back through it one of these days.
So I'm also...
I liked the giant... Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm also an Ocarina of Time man. It was both my first and my favorite. And in fact, I think it's my first game that I played, actually. Just the first game I ever touched.
Are you a 90s child?
I don't reveal my age, but...
Okay, I'll just guess.
Based on that, that's a good guess. So Hyrule Gamer, why is Twilight Princess your favorite, now that we've got you ganged up with the Ocarina of Time fans instead of the Ocarina of Time?
It is what it is, man.
It does kind of... The actual reason it's my favorite is somewhat related to Ocarina of Time, actually, because I did play that first. And I think the reason Twilight Princess feels like the best game to me is it follows a very, very sort of identical structure and format that Ocarina did. In terms of the dungeons and how the story progresses. And don't get me wrong, I loved Ocarina of Time, but I think it's just I'm not going to reveal the age, but I might be a little bit younger, not the 90s baby. And I think when I played Ocarina of Time for the first time, I might have been a bit too young to fully get a grasp of what was going on. And I think Twilight Princess gave me the first experience of really understanding the story and actually following it, rather than just kind of how when I first played Ocarina of Time, for example, it was kind of like I didn't really get what was going on. I was just having fun, swinging a sword, asking my dad for help when I couldn't beat any enemy. And yeah, Twilight Princess kind of captured that, but gave it understanding to me in a way. And I don't know, just the game is just, it's just special. I can't put it any other way than that. It's just really, really special to me.
Is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I actually agree with Bandit what he said a little while ago. It's a quote that I say often, that all Zelda games are perfect and eternal, and
Yeah, they're all unique to themselves.
Yeah.
They're
I don't
amazing.
know which one is my favorite specifically. It's probably Ocarina. I oscillate, but whatever my favorite is, it's Breath of the Wild is probably my second favorite. So it takes second place no matter what happens to take first place.
That's a good
Yeah.
formula.
Yeah, that is
Favorite
kind of
minus
similar to
one
myself.
equals Breath of the Wild. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about where we place Breath of the Wild if you'd like.
Ooh, yeah. Let's do that.
I mean, this is a bit spicy, but
Yeah,
I like
that's
spice.
I don't know if you guys follow my channel, but I get myself into trouble a lot from both sides, talking
go.
about Breath of the Wild. So yeah, where do you place Breath of the Wild in your thing?
Well, I would say probably kind of like you know what I mean? It's like the Zelda games will shift somewhat on your like top 5 list or whatever. Like when I had gone back through Skyward Sword, I was like, "Oh man, this is going to be on my top 5 list. I don't know what I was thinking, it's great." And then of course I had to go back to the same areas 3 times and I was like, "Okay, maybe it's number 6 or something like that." But Breath of the Wild has got to be a solid like 3rd place for me.
Mm-hmm.
Solid. Because it's one of the greatest games I've ever played, like as far as like a game is concerned. Just for a quick little mini review thing, I mean, did it introduce anything new to gaming as a whole? Not really. But it did expound on stuff that was there. We know what open worlds are, and so it made the openest world of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course it did introduce the notion of true verticality. You can climb anything, so hey, there's cliffs above you, beneath you. I mean, who knows? But so, as far as like an actual game is concerned, I think it is one of the greatest games I've ever played. But that's not necessarily like I didn't fall in love with Ocarina of Time because I could climb up any surface, And to me, that's what a Zelda game is. So anyway, that's in a nutshell. It's probably solid number 3.
Yeah, I will say that if it did anything unique, it's that it really took the openness of the open world to its logical conclusion. Like you literally can go like all the games say you can go
Right.
anywhere and you could do anything, but you can't really in other open world games. You're locked behind story objectives and quests. You can't actually traverse into any location, but in this game you actually can. You can go to the
Yeah.
final boss immediately. You can do any dungeons in any order, any of the divine beasts in any order. If you can see it, you can get to it, which was
It's pretty legendary.
yeah. So Hyrule Gamer, what about you? Where do you rank Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, it's pretty similar for me. It comes in second, and the thing is, it's a weird one because I feel like I can't put it anywhere else. It almost feels like it's going to be stuck there for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
just because of how I don't know how to say it, but like just sort of how different it is to the rest, whilst being amazing in itself. I find it hard to actually compare it to the other games, which is why it kind of is a interesting one to rank. But yeah, it comes
So
second
unique.
for me. Yeah. Twilight Princess takes first spot just because of like special meaning. Just your favorite game's your favorite game. That's just how
Right.
it is. And I can't put Breath of the Wild there just because it's not got the same feeling for me. But at the same time, it almost deserves to be there. So it's just kind of getting put in second, and then everything else can move and change as I replay different games. But Breath of the Wild, I think, is going to be in second for a long time.
Yeah, we're a bunch of old men here. We're all just like Zelda boomers. It's like, yeah, we love it, but it's missing that little Zelda something.
Yeah.
I saw a meme when I was a kid. I saw a meme before we called them memes that was like two guys arguing, and it was like, the best Zelda game is the one that came out when I was 12. And the other guy's like, no, the best Zelda game is the one that came out when I was 12. And it's like, but it's so freaking true, though. I mean, if we just kind of look outside our own favorite lists, people, it's kind of like that MMO argument. People say your favorite MMO will be your first MMO. And that, like, that's just, obviously that's not a fact for everybody, but like, for a lot of people it is, because the first time you get invested into a world and stuff like that is very hard to beat.
Yeah.
So
it is what it is. But yes, I am, as you said, a Zelda boomer. No, I wasn't in existence when the first few games came out, but I definitely do have some nostalgic glasses that people just don't have these days, or at least they have less and less these days.
One of the things with Breath of the Wild, and let's go ahead and get in trouble with it, is that I always felt like when I was playing it, any problems that I had, the entire time I was feeling, these problems I have with Breath of the Wild, they don't have to be this way. They didn't have to be here. Like specifically, like one of the things that you mentioned, Bandit, reminded me of just the narrative structure of Ocarina of Time. It's like one of my favorites. I really enjoy
absolutely
heroes' journeys. Like I love heroes' journeys, and every Zelda game
Absolutely.
before Breath of the Wild was a perfect hero's journey. You have you receive magical aid. You have to leave your home. You have to abandon your hometown, receive magical aid. It follows all the steps basically for the hero's journey, and Breath of and I mean, there's a reason why heroes' journeys are an archetype. It's why they're so common. It's because they work. It's a good.
Well, they've been around, since the days of the Greeks and even before then. I mean, the hero's journey is as classic as literature itself because it's tried and true.
Right.
It's very powerful.
And my issue with Breath of the Wild was that it wasn't a hero's journey.
Right.
It started you off. And you had lost your memories, and you have to go collect your memories, but it didn't show the progression of becoming a hero. Really, you're reclaiming pieces of what you've lost, and you get to see your memories. And the memory cutscenes I felt were like wonderful. I actually really liked the memory cutscenes. I liked having to navigate and figure out how to get to them, and I liked what they showed. I even thought that the story that it depicted was super interesting. It just also wasn't happening. It's a memory. It was happening in the distant past. It wasn't something that was happening to the character and developing him in some way. So you never see, even the past Link, you never see that Link have to abandon his childhood home. You never have to see him go through his growth cycle. He was already a complete hero by the time the past happened. So much the less now. And that always I felt was unfortunate. It really is just the story bit that I felt Breath of the Wild was lacking. At this point, I would give up everything else if we could just have a story that's developing the character as it happens.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I agree with practically everything you said because I think there was this one video that I had done a while ago about when I just talked about what I thought, about Breath of the Wild, and I believe I used the argument that I'm about to use here, or not argument, but the picture of the hero's journey, and not even just a hero's journey, just a story journey in and of itself. There's got to be build up, climax, resolution, stuff like that. Well, in Breath of the Wild, that did actually happen, and I'm not even just talking about Link here. I'm just talking about the story in general. It did happen. There was a bunch of stuff that happened, but that happened way before you get to play the game. And yes, it is cool that you do get to go watch some movies. A little 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute clips of what happened back then. But that's it. And then you just kind of stop. Remembering whatever it is, and then there you are. It's like, you see this tree, man? It may look like a tree now, but 100 years ago, you would not believe what happened right here at this pedal, man. Whoo, boy, I tell you what. And it's like, I don't know. There's a certain element of captivation that's lost when you don't actually play through the story that's unfolding around you. You know, compare Breath of the Wild story to The Last of Us. And I know those are two extremes, but still, the point remains, like, you know, you go through something like that where every turn is your turn, you know, and every time you decide to do something, it's your decision. You know, that's how you get someone invested in a story. And in Breath of the Wild, like I said, it's nice that you get to watch those cutscenes, but you didn't get to do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so not only was there a lack of, and I agree, a lack of kind of progression with Link. It was all just kind of implied. Like I think the lore specifies that he picked up the Master Sword at like 6 or something. I forget, but like he was super freaking young.
Prodigy Link.
Yeah, Prodigy Link. He just kind of was like, he went from saying goo goo gaga to like, you know, going into the freaking Lost Woods and drawing the Master Sword. So, I mean, that's pretty bomb if you ask me, but it's also kind of like, there's not much of a journey there. He was just born to shine.
Yeah. If anything, he's
yeah.
a Gary Sue. I mean, Gary Stew, I guess is what they called him when they're
Yeah.
He's a Mary Sue, but male.
Right.
I think my favorite part of the old story, like the past story, was Zelda not being able to live up to her lineage, you know, for a long time, and struggling with that, and being jealous of Link, and seeing how awesome Link is. And like resenting him for it, and thinking that he's judging her for you know, being so successful at fulfilling his destiny, and you know, all the champions in Link just have to watch her fail over and over and not know why. Like I found that very compelling.
She's the best part of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
I mean, hands down. She, you know, her entire character arc that you do get to witness, which, you know, is what we've been talking about, you know, like what you do and do not get to witness. But we got to see her transform from, like, you know, being dutiful to being hopeless and desperate and resentful towards Link to actually growing fond of him. And if Nintendo Black Crisis were here, he'd be saying, and falling in love with him. But, you know, that is what it is. But yeah, I think she's hands down the greatest part of Breath of the Wild, because she's definitely the deepest that the character of Zelda has ever been portrayed as. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it.
So, Hyrule Gamer, I saw your latest, well, maybe it wasn't your latest video, but I saw a video that you just recently made where you put your 5 hopes for Tears of the Kingdom. And one of the things that you discussed in that video was the Arbiter's Grounds, and how, you know, they're canonically there. They're in the desert. You can see them. It's obviously the Arbiter's Ground from Twilight Princess. And you mentioned that one of the things that they could do that'd be cool is make it rise above the ground like it did with Hyrule Castle, or they could make a sinkhole that you can go down into, and one way or the other, you know, you get to explore the remnants of the Arbiter's Ground of old. And I thought that was just like the coolest. That's a great idea. That's such a good idea. I was very happy to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, I think I gotta give a bit of credit there, because it's an idea I talked about with another Zelda creator, Triforce Trends, a few times. He's also a very big fan of the Arbiter's Grounds idea, and like it kind of just came from like after like getting through my initial video ideas, just sort of sitting and looking at the trailer a few more times and being like, what else is there to talk about here? And then like the malice coming from Death Mountain and Hyrule Castle in particular, it kind of sparked the idea of like, well, this is just a trailer showing that. For all we know, there's other locations getting this done to them. And, you know, being a Twilight Princess fan, I was instantly wanting something done with that reference to the Arbiter's Grounds in Breath of the Wild. I was instantly thinking, like, oh, come on, that's got to be pushed out and, like you said, either into the sky or opening something up down below. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the actual Arbiter's Grounds, so to say, even if it's just opening up something never seen before, perhaps deeper chambers we've never seen, or wherever the case may be. But it extends beyond that reference location. It could apply to anywhere in the existing world. Anything could be lifted up with malice or whatever. The Akala Citadel is a good example. I feel like something could be done there with a similar treatment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a real sucker for Nintendo referencing and calling back to its previous works. I often say that Nintendo cares deeply about the Zelda timeline in the fact that it's a continuity, even if they don't necessarily quibble where everything's placed. You know, even if they don't necessarily care that much exactly where everything is, they do care that they have a history with the timeline. They care that they have a they care that they have that those things did happen and they happened in the past, and they reference them. You know, that moment in the Great Plateau when you see the Temple of Time and you walk over there, and you know, it has a specific music that plays only when you're there. And if you like listen to it or speed it up, you can tell, oh, that's the Temple of Time song that they remade with the Breath of the Wild softer melody. I love shit like that. You know, when you find Lon Lon Ranch out in the out in the world, and it has a specific song tied to that, like, it's all very emotional. I love anytime. I'm a big sucker for that.
Mm-hmm. We actually have Aonuma recorded in interviews in the 90s. I think it was either on the release of Ocarina or right before, claiming, because see, that was before people were like, hey, are all these things like a continuity thing, or is there like it's the same story over and over again, or what's going on here? And he said, no, they're different games, but they're connected, and I have a big document that connects them all, and it's top secret. And Miyamoto was right there with him, and he was like, yep, it's true. So I mean, yeah, you're not, that's not just speculation, that's proven fact. They've always wanted these Zelda games to be this massive continuity. I think that we, the fans, kind of forced them to make a timeline eventually, like an actual canonical one that, you know,
by bickering about it for so long.
Exactly. Which, you know, proves that they do listen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do that. So actually, now that you mentioned that, like, I actually don't have another venue for talking about this, but this has been on my mind regarding, you know, continuity in the timeline, because I'm working on a video and it won't fit in that video. It's not about that. But let's make some people angry. Have you guys heard the thing? I think you just referenced it, but it's a popular idea in the community that the games are just legends and they don't necessarily have the timeline. Nintendo made up the timeline because of demand of the fans, that they didn't actually have an official timeline at any point before that, and that they're like the games are best interpreted as just a series of legends with no connection to each other. Have you heard this style of thinking?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's one of the classic arguments against the timeline right there. I think even one of my mods in my server believes that way. I'm not going to call him out.
Okay.
Or them. I'm not going to call them out. Whoops. Just kidding. But no, it's so, you know, problem number one is that a timeline exists regardless, right? By the word of God, in this case, the word of the creator.
Right.
So that, you know, that is not very debatable. What we're debating is the nature of the timeline. You know what I mean? So, and problem number two is just that, you know, it's literally these people that say, oh, it's just a, you know, every game is a retelling of the same legend, or maybe a dream, or, you know, something. You have to pick and choose with that too, because games very clearly, as you mentioned, reference one another. Mm-hmm. So in that case, it's like, okay, well then which ones specifically are you talking about that you would like to say are simple retellings? And at that, you know, and at what point does it stop being a retelling and you know, become something else? Because like Wind Waker, for instance, cannot exist unless there was a time split at the end of Ocarina of Time.
Right.
And that's proven by the opening of the Wind Waker.
Well, their argument seems to me to be that the timeline exists, but you know, they're not disputing its canonicity. They're disputing that they ever really intended from the beginning for the games to exist in a continuity. You know, it's a kind of, we know better than Nintendo, like we shouldn't take their word seriously. And I can understand that to an extent, because it is obvious that they want a degree of freedom and interpretation to go along with the timeline, and I don't think they really care, because they've said in interviews where they don't think about where this game is going to go in the timeline when they're working on it. It's a thing that they do after the game is finished. But that said, I think it's mostly it's the most incorrect interpretation to think that the games actually aren't connected to each other, that they weren't intended to be connected to each other. Even in the earliest games. You have Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 clearly and obviously connected to each other. A Link to the Past was after that, clearly and obviously in the manual and in the back of the box art telling you that it is a prequel to those two games. Ocarina of Time. You have interviews in 1998 with developers where they talk about, this is supposed to be a prequel to A Link to the Past. It's a retelling of the imprisoning war that we talked about there. So, and even the initial timeline split, which a lot of people assume that Nintendo pulled out of their, that Nintendo made it up, or they just stole it from the community. That timeline split was talked about by Eiji Onuma in February of 2007. He basically confirmed that Wind Waker was a parallel world and that Twilight Princess happens in the kid timeline. And that was 3 months after Twilight Princess released. So I don't think that he was looking around GameFAQs and stealing other, whatever lore theories people had in the 3 months since Twilight Princess released. So the split was intentional. The timelines were always intentional. I think it's fan fiction to think that it's all just a bunch of legends. It's a cool concept. Don't get me wrong, but if anybody's the most wrong, I think that group's the most wrong. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue against someone who says, well, I just think that this was the original intent and, that's it. I don't think there's really an argument to be had there, Yeah. I mean, because, sure, what if you're right? Okay. I mean, does that change what it is now? No. I mean, when Miyamoto came up with the initial idea for The Legend of Zelda, did he immediately conceptualize Breath of the Wild?
No, obviously.
And all the games in between? No, it is exactly like you just said, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of real-world history that goes into the development of the Zelda games and therefore the development of the Zelda lore. Zelda games have always been at the forefront of pushing gaming as a whole to the next level. They've always done that. And so while they were doing that, they started making more games and then they started coming up with new ways to slot them in. And I don't think there's any problem with that.
Right.
I mean, I think that by the time, you mentioned Aonuma himself talked about the timeline split in 2007. Well, when Wind Waker came out in 2002, again, that was already referencing the timeline split in game, and we don't even have to cite any other source. That's an in game, it says, the boy, was called the Hero of Time because he popped in this era and then popped out when he was done. That's clearly the adult timeline.
Yeah.
And so it's like day.
Exactly. It can't, that sort of thing can't be debated because it's in game. And if there's one thing that everybody agrees on, it's in game canon.
Yeah.
So anyway, but if we're arguing intent,
intent's a weird thing to argue. But the problem with this specific kind of thing to argue is that you have to argue that they're lying right now. You have to argue that when they say that it was intentional, because they do say that it was intentional. Every time that they have said that it's intentional, that they're lying and they continue to lie. And, without evidence, you're just calling developers liars for no reason.
Yeah, it's speculation.
Yeah.
In a court of law, they would say, hearsay, Your Honor, and they'd move on.
Yeah, take that to the Zelda court. It's not holding up.
Take it to the Zelda court. Yeah, that's what we should do, man. We should amongst the Zelda tubers. You heard it first here. Zelda court, where it's going to be the next level of your rating your theories and mysteries.
Get a patent on that idea.
Yeah,
there it is.
They can take it to the Zeltic Court of Appeals if they need to.
Zeltic Court of Appeals, exactly. Oh, that would be scary, actually. We hide from him.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so Hero Gamer, do you have something that you didn't mention in that video that's your hope for Tears of the Kingdom? You mentioned those 5 things that you would like Tears of the Kingdom to introduce. Is there anything that you didn't mention that's something you really want in Tears of the Kingdom to happen?
Honestly, there's probably tons I could go from. I'm gonna go for a little bit of I'm not even gonna call this silly. I was gonna call this silly, but no, this is serious. Petting dogs, cats, all the love for the animals.
Oh my god, that is serious.
It is so serious. It's not even debatable. You could ask any fan online, and I'm sure they would agree. Most would agree. I'm pretty sure you yourself, Bandit, might have put a tweet about this sometime recently.
Of
I don't know
course
if
I did.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I knew I wasn't making that up in my head. That is like a genuine hope of mine. I don't even mean this as a joke. It's a genuine hope that they bring animal interaction
Yeah, I'm not
back.
smiling. Are you smiling? I'm not smiling.
I'm smiling
Yeah,
thinking
serious.
about it, but I won't be smiling if it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the interaction that you could have with animals in past games, and I'm gonna particularly go to Twilight Princess and picking cats up. Why was that ever? I mean, I know cats aren't in Breath of the Wild, but but still, why was that never carried through every single game afterwards? That's
You could pet
what the
sheep
hell?
too in Twilight Princess.
yeah. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, the
You
animals.
know what? I forgot
need
about
love.
that too.
Yeah, I completely
That just
forgot
knocked Twilight Princess up a little bit, I think. You can't pet the fish in Wind Waker.
I actually would
I
be
had to go to fish because,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's another thing I really want. I want fishing. Back. I'm a
Fishing.
huge,
Yes, please.
huge fishing fan.
You can fish in every way possible except for with an actual fishing rod in Breath of the Wild.
Pretty much. That is a very good summary of it. You can fish every way, but fishing.
Except for like
fishing.
actual fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of something really cool. What if you can craft a fishing rod? You know, just get a stick and craft a line. You know, there'll be bug parts, and you could use like those key size or some other kind of eyes and as the fishing bob, you know, and like throw it out in there because they got so much emphasis for crafting in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, no,
I would love that, but
that would be
it
so
would require... Yeah, it would require them to go back on just being able to blow up any fish you see.
Yeah.
But I would love that, though. I mean, it would lead to a lot less fish death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot less needless fish death. Let's just have them like in a different state of game logic altogether, where if something happens nearby, they just kind of dissipate and kind of disappear. You know, the fishes don't need to die if I'm fighting bokoblins by the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I would be stunned if you can't pet the dogs. Like that was a big complaint people had. I think there was even an interview where they mentioned that people really wanted to pet the dogs in Breath of the Wild. So it'd be shocked if that didn't happen. But do you have a particular hope that you're hoping to come into Tears of the Kingdom, Bandit?
Oh, shoot! I thought you were about to ask him again. 1 second, let me think.
Me too. I was getting mentally prepped too there.
Let's see. I mean dungeons, I guess.
Right.
But everybody wants
dungeons.
Oh yeah, that's the big
Let's
one.
see. What's another specific thing? Music.
Oh,
Music.
really?
I want more. I'm a big music guy, man. I mean, I'm a big, and it's not just because I'm an editor and Nintendo lets me use their music, so I like know all the tracks by heart. But like, I legit like I'm one of those guys that doesn't listen to any like one genre of music personally, and that includes soundtrack. Like, I just listen to what I'm into, and sometimes video game tracks or movie tracks or whatever can speak louder than any words can. And anyway. So I don't know. Breath of the Wild had some great tunes. They were kind of few and far between, which is okay because, you know, I don't know if you guys have been through a lot of like the study behind Breath of the Wild soundtrack, but in a nutshell, it was actually expertly crafted to ensure that you never get fatigued from listening to any one track.
Right.
Because, you know, the areas are so massive, you know, it would kind of get tiring if for the next 5 hours of gameplay you listen to the same Kakariko, you know, theme over and over again, etc. But I would like to hear some more, I don't know, iconic melodies, you know, that don't sound like background music. I mean, like, for instance, Gerudo Valley. Have we come back from Gerudo Valley yet? I don't think so.
No.
I think it's still one of the freaking list toppers.
It's right up there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it was so good, but also so chill. And I'll admit, one of the things that I was disappointed about with Breath of the Wild was Koji Kondo's absence. I believe he was present to help with some of the soundtrack, but most of it was the new guy, and I forget his name. Piano Man, I guess, because
Right.
you know there's a lot of piano in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, I would like to see a return to some iconic themes. personally. Maybe mix in some Ganondorf music whenever we approach him or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
Like Breath of the Wild had some good stuff. I just wanted to plug real quick, like Hyrule Castle.
oh yeah, that's
Freaking
a great
loved
one.
Hyrule Castle.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
one. So I agree with you. I actually didn't know about that they didn't want you to get fatigued. They wanted the type of music. It makes perfect sense. You spend a lot of time in the overworld, and they want you to be able to not get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they did it. The piano flourishes, the soft, lingering melodies that they used in Breath of the Wild. And there was this video by Masahiro Sakurai. He puts these videos out in YouTube. The
This is
Smash
the greatest gaming channel of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, he's so great. And in one of the videos that I was working on, I was going to talk about the music for Breath of the Wild. But immediately he came out with a video talking about how music. And in the video, he's like, I hear a lot of people saying, I missed how music was back in the day. I miss old video game music. And he's like, okay, well, let me show you something. Let's put some old video game tracks and put some Breath of the Wild footage on top of it. And it was a stark contrast, like it didn't sound right. With having old video game music. And his point was like you just can't do that anymore, kind of thing. It doesn't feel right to do it. And so like I took that part of my video because I wasn't about to argue with Masahiro Sakurai, and like the second he put that video out, just in case someone threw that back in my face. But a solution I think could go with the dungeons. I continuously said, if they do make a more traditionalist dungeon, they could also include more traditional music to help with the atmosphere of that dungeon. And because dungeons aren't an affair that you're going to be in there for 8 hours, you probably won't get fatigued. You can just listen to that music while you're in there, however long, half an hour, hour at most to get through the dungeon. And that way you can have iconic music that sounds more like classic Zelda music, and also Breath of the Wild's don't get tired of the overworld music.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know what I'm doing here, arguing with Mr. Sakurai. I think we all love the man, and but I think there's just too many variables there to make that blanket of a statement. You see the old video game music, it doesn't fit here. Well, I mean, there are so many variables there. I mean, those are from different games. They were designed for those games, those areas, those situations, those whatever. None of which has anything to do with Breath of the Wild. So go figure the music doesn't sound right in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Yeah. So, but, and Breath of the Wild, in the same note, the music, like I was saying, was designed for Breath of the Wild. So I get it. Like, I get why they did it. But I also don't think, like I was just saying, I don't think it's that simple. Just like old equals bad, good whimsical piano equals good. I think we could absolutely have dungeon themes for dungeons. Or I mean, we had the same frickin' shrine theme for all 120. How many are there?
120.
Well, yeah, and then the DLC adds, 12?
Yeah.
Or something? So, I mean, over 130 shrines, we had the same one theme.
Who knows how long I listened to that theme? Must have been a
Exactly.
long time.
It haunts me in my sleep.
It sure does. I used to use it in like every video, but then I figured I am
heard
way
it enough.
overusing this thing.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
It fits for videos really well as well. That's the thing. But
It's
It
actually
does.
it's actually
It's
really
like
good.
a listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's a good theme, right? It's good for like thinking, listening. It's perfectly crafted for that situation. See, vice versa, if I grabbed that and slapped it over like the footage of Ocarina of Time Link jumping into Gerudo Valley with Epona, and then said, "You see, it doesn't work, kids. It doesn't fit." I mean, like, there's just too many variables there. So if it was designed for some good music, I don't see why, it couldn't work. But
Yeah, the Zelda team is clever. Like, if they wanted it to work,
Absolutely.
they can make it work. Like,
Absolutely. We could get some iconic dungeon music. Bring back the stuff like Earth Temple Wind Waker. Oh, sorry, what's up?
sorry, I wasn't meaning to interrupt. Sorry.
No, you're good. I ramble too much.
I was more just generally agreeing. My bad.
Yeah, no problem. Let's move on. Let's start getting into the leaks. So
Sweet.
Actually, hang on. Let's talk about the leaks before we actually get into the leaks. I saw you, Bandit. I follow you on Twitter, and I saw that you received quite a reaction to your decision not to cover leaks in your videos. And I actually got a similar reaction, which I find surprising that so many. So I think Triforce Trends also got some of that. Can you tell us what the reaction you got was by some of your commenters?
So are you talking about the videos on YouTube?
You got some comments of people like being angry that you didn't want to comment on leaks.
Right. Well, yeah. So some people are very upset. And I'm not really I'm not sure why, to be honest. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's interesting. But not forcing, but like demanding that YouTubers cover a leak, when it's like, I've never been that kind of like on my channel. You know what I mean? I'm not that kind of like, you'll never guess what just happened, or, kind of like, what's the word? Clout, you know, and leaks and clout are kind of similar if we're being honest. And there's nothing wrong with covering that stuff. It's just not my trademark. It's just not what I do.
Like, you just didn't want to do it.
I just don't want to do it. And exactly, I shouldn't have to explain it, right? But I mean, like, here we are, and we have the reactions that we have gotten, and it's not just me.
Yeah, I got them too.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah,
them.
you have. Yeah,
did you get it too?
Gamer has.
Did you get them too,
Yeah.
Hyrule Gamer?
Yeah, I got a fair few.
Like, is it the same guy, or what's going on here? Like,
there's at least 4 of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least 4.
Maybe they have a group chat and they just organize these different replies about it.
It turns out it's just the same dude.
I can even understand them being upset a little bit. Like, I understand, like, oh, they have this information, they want their favorite YouTubers to cover it, maybe. I can understand them being a little disappointed. But we had people on here with like extremely visceral reactions in the comment sections, like calling the content creators cowards for not doing it, that you're all a bunch of Nintendo shills, and I'm just like, bro, like we just don't want to do it.
Just
like,
chill, man. Yeah, we're trying to not. Yeah,
it kind of goes to what Bandit said of like, it's not something we covered prior already. Like, we were never leak channels, the type of people that covered leaks. And like you said, there's nothing wrong if that is something new, but it's not something we've done. So why is it odd that we're just clarifying, I won't be covering this? Like, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion. But
it's caused people to be passionate in the other spectrum as well. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Because on the one end, you've got the people that are just screaming about, like, why aren't you covering this? And so it's creating the other end as well, where they're screaming about, don't cover it.
Right.
And so now all of a sudden there's 2 sides. You see what I mean?
Zelda fans are quite passionate, I've noticed.
We love Zelda fans, but yes, you are correct.
Personally, like, I've played Zelda since Ocarina of Time. I went back and I played like almost all of them. And I've been a part of playing Zelda games pretty much my whole child and adult life. But
That's a W.
But I never was part of the Zelda community. You know, I never like went to forums and read what they were doing. I wasn't part of the internet Zelda. I just played the games, and then I started, covering them, and I had to start reading what people say in comments, and I'm doing research, and I'm trying to see other people's videos and trying to understand how things are done in the community. And I'm realizing Zelda fans are crazy. Like,
that's a good way to put it.
I've done coverage for Elden Ring. I've done coverage for Monster Hunter, and I gained sizable followings in those places, which gave me the confidence to try and transition into Zelda making content. But I have never received some of the kinds of comments that I get, even from Souls players. You would think that the Souls people would be the roughest kind of community, but no, the Zelda people have been the most passionate, let's say.
I don't even really know why it is, but it's always been that way. I mean, like I said, there were jokes, comic joke things, when I was a kid about people arguing over Zelda games. So I'm not sure what it is about Zelda, but I think it's just because people love these games. They love these games a lot. Like you said, they're passionate. And so a lot of times, when you have a person that's a bit maybe not quite as mature as they should be talking online, they see somebody else have another opinion, be it hey, I like this game better than this one or whatever. It's a learned behavior to be able to be like, okay, cool, that's your opinion, cool, and then kind of go on. By default, you see kids arguing with each other saying, no, my dad's stronger than your dad, or my, blah blah blah, whatever. So it's like,
maybe the audience is just younger. Maybe the audience is just younger. Maybe that has something to do with it.
It could be because it's definitely like it's a natural human response to opposition. It's one that like I was just saying has to be learned and taught to come out of. So I don't know. Maybe the Zelda community is just that big, or like you said, maybe it has younger people in it. It's always appealed to, not any one particular age. So anyway, also I just wanted to plug real quick. You cover Elden Ring. That's amazing. Vintage Souls fans used to be the friendliest people on the planet. Not even kidding. Because it was kind of like a camaraderie, getting through the games. Even being able to discuss lore and crap like that required you to have beaten the game, which requires you to have been, it's like being a biker, you know what I mean? You pull up to like a club or something and there's already all this understood stuff between you,
right?
You're able to ride a bike and all the difficulties that come with that. Well, if you're able to beat a Souls game, there are quite a few difficulties that come with that. So there was this kind of sense of camaraderie, among the fans. But I don't know. As the franchise has grown, maybe it's kind of the same thing. It just opens the door to more passionate people who are, I guess, a bit less open to other opinions and stuff. So I think it's kind of natural. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of natural.
I think that this also happened in the Monster Hunter community because I wasn't there for it, but before Monster Hunter World, the Monster Hunter community wasn't very large, and they're still quite friendly, like probably the friendliest group, but they were I've heard it reported that they were a lot more so before Monster Hunter World, and I suspect the reason that this happens is because when the fan base is small, they're hungry to get more people in. They want to proselytize their favorite thing. When Souls was small, when it was just Demon Souls, like I know I was constantly trying to get anyone to play it. Like, come on, play Demon Souls, play Dark Souls 1. And then as it grew into quite mainstream, if it has gotten worse, I think that's why. Because now we're like, hang on, we're full, we're at capacity.
No, you're right. As a fandom grows, I think this is true of movies, books, TV, games, anything really, sports, anything. As a fandom grows, it becomes more volatile. There's a direct, that's a direct equation, I feel. So, yeah. But, like I said, we love Zelda fans. Zelda fans are amazing.
They're great.
And
they're great.
There's a whole bunch of good that comes from the Zelda community.
Thank you guys for watching my videos.
All three of us. Thank everybody for watching the videos. But there's a lot of awesome just fan community camaraderie as well that comes from the Zelda community. So this isn't just a beating on Zelda fans. It's just that, if anything, it's a compliment to the community for being big enough to have people like that in it. Because, there are, like, I just went through the game Outer Wilds.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys have.
Oh, what a wonderful thing to say.
I've seen the game. I haven't.
Hyrule Gamer,
I was not expecting either of you.
You have to play it. It's so good.
I will say,
dude. I put it off for about a year. I bought it like a year ago, and then I was just like, one day, because it went on sale. But man, I wish I could wipe my memory and go through it again.
Yep.
It was magical, and I may or may not have cried, but anyway. But the point is, I couldn't even find anybody to talk to about it online.
Right.
It's such a tiny community, and it really puts things in perspective.
One of the
because
things
the Zelda
about
community is so huge.
One of the things about Outer Wilds specifically is that it's actually hard to find anyone willing to talk about it.
Because they don't want to spoil it.
They don't want to spoil it because it's uniquely sensitive to spoilers because of the nature of its gameplay.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very difficult to say anything about it as a pitch to a new player without spoiling like essential things that
Right.
they would have enjoyed more playing themselves. So it's like it's
You've
quite the
got to do it
conundrum.
blind. Yeah, you've got to pitch it blind too, like you were
Yeah,
saying.
like just
You
trust me,
really
bro.
can't say right. You can't say if you like games like XYZ. The only thing that I've really said is that,
Majora's
and
Mask.
even this might be kind of a spoiler. Well, no, I likened it to the gameplay of Subnautica and the impact of Undertale,
Ooh,
because it's kind of it's kind of similar, and now it doesn't hit you in the same vein as Undertale or whatever. I'm just saying that it's
the
a bit.
emotional impact is similar.
Exactly. It's surprisingly emotional, kind of like Undertale, because you log into Undertale and you're like, it's a cute little game, and then all of a sudden you're like sobbing for 3 years, and you just can't quit Undertale music and all that stuff. It's very similar. When you're done with Outer Wilds, you'll be listening to the track and just staring off into space, wondering about life, and but the gameplay itself is kind of like Subnautica in space. And it's a beautiful thing.
You guys,
But anyway, we can. Oh, sorry.
the audience, you should if you haven't played Outer Wilds, you should trust me or Bandit. And if you want to know a little bit about it, I actually made a video trying to get people to play it without spoiling too
Oh
much.
my
So
God.
look for that video if you are not convinced. It's a great game.
Hell, I'm gonna check that video out.
But let's move on to the actual leaks. We've gone almost an hour just talking about Zelda without actually covering any of the leaks I said we were going to. Okay, so there are a couple of things that were kind of confirmed, but most of it is just like added a lot of questions to things. It added fertile ground for speculation from all the leaks that I saw. So number one, that is pretty much basically guaranteed, pretty much confirmed. Weapon crafting. Do you guys saw that?
Mm-hmm.
So monster parts. I actually made a video talking about this a little bit before the leak came out, and it works almost exactly how I thought it was going to. So I was very happy. Weapon crafting using monster parts.
I'm gonna let my buddy Adam take the
Okay.
reins here, because I don't want to just fill this entire thing up with my voice.
Yeah, no
The thing
problem.
is, I'm not entirely sure what I make of the crafting stuff yet in terms of the art book. It's extremely intriguing, as is basically everything that was leaked.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just it just makes me excited to see how that will actually turn out in the game. If it is in the game in the exact same way shown in the book, because I think something with art books is that not everything in there isn't necessarily in the final
Right.
game. It might have changed since whatever concept they show in. And like we've seen that over time with various different art books and just books that include art in general.
Well, for context, let me ask you, Hyrule Gamer, how did you feel about? I mean, this is kind of another touchy subject for the Breath of the Wild community, but how did you feel about weapon durability?
I've chopped and changed
Oh,
on my
boy.
opinions of it. But I think sitting here now is 6 years on. I think it was good. I think
Right.
it has things that could be improved on. And I used to be someone who was like, no, let's just get rid of it. But I think nowadays I'm more on the side of let's keep it and work on it. I think the idea itself is really good and really fitting. I just think there's some things that maybe need to be tweaked. And it kind of looks like they're going to go in that direction with Tears of the Kingdom, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to have the exact same. I don't think they're going to throw it away. I think they're going to change it up a little, see how we like it now.
So I just sent you an image on the chat, and so basically, one of the interesting things about this weapon crafting that I find, you take monster parts and you combine it. It looks like you're just going to take monster parts and combine it with stuff to make stronger weapons. But the weird thing is that what seems to get combined is actual weapons. So like the picture depicts some swords and then monster parts just stuck to the sword. Like there's a Hinox toenail and some moblin horns and stuff like that. And it looks like you're just putting them together. That's probably like an older version of it. But even on the stuff that looks more realistic, you take monster parts and you just connect them to whatever you have on hand. And in almost all of them, it looks like it's rusty swords and just existing wooden sticks, and you just put them together like you're almost exactly how they're doing for the vehicles, and you make a new weapon. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely
It's a nice and
interesting.
simple concept.
Yeah,
Even I can understand it.
Yeah, it's. I think that's probably one of the main things actually. With if and it does look like it, taking that approach of let's keep what we have but work on it. I feel like something very important is don't overcomplicate the changes. Make it simple and easy for anyone playing to understand it and pick it up. Like, I wouldn't say Zelda games are known for their extreme complex crafting or anything like that, and it's still kind of, at least in the grand scheme of things, a bit of a new concept with weapons in particular. So I feel like that is a key point, to keep it simple and not overdo it, which is kind of what it looks like. So
My biggest hope for this is actually that it helps with the enemy variety, because obviously one of the big things that people complain about Breath of the Wild is the lack of enemy variety. You only have 3 main subgroups of enemies, and those groups, come in a variety of different colors, and that's pretty much all the variety you're going to get for those groups. And one of the reasons that they're so limited is because they have to give you weapons whenever you kill something. So, they have to be humanoidish. They have to be the kind of things that wield weapons to be able to fight. But with this, you get monster part horns, and you turn those into weapons. Then it frees them up to make all kinds of things that don't have to wield weapons that you need to get, because you get the weapons from their parts. I'm just hopeful that frees up their creativity.
yeah,
Absolutely.
That
Can we
totally
talk?
agree.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just staying. I agree. Go ahead.
Can we talk about how strange the monster horns are, though?
Yeah, they look
Like
a
what-
little
like what?
funky in this picture.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the trailers started coming out after the first one, the ones that actually, I think it was the second trailer that finally showed, Link diving down and seeing some bokoblins that are familiar looking, but even they have like funky horns now. Their horns are like freaking long, and then the moblins have like skull cap looking things, and it's just strange. Of all the design choices to use in upgrading the weapons, or I'm sorry, the enemies for the sequel, it's like, let's give them hats. Let's give them anyway. It's just it just feels a little strange to me.
I'm assuming
strange enough to where there's got to be a reason behind it, a very specific reason.
So I'm assuming that, the reason is so that they have something to turn into weapons, like the bokoblin things look like spears. But lore-wise, I suspect that, like, the malice explosion, like with Ganondorf coming out and his malice spreading out everywhere, they're all powered up, and the horns are actual just horns. They're not hats, and they're just growing out from their skulls. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm assuming right now, lore-wise.
I mean, that's as good an assumption as any. I think that's. I mean,
yeah.
especially with the previous trailer. I mean, we saw literal meteor shards of malice, almost just shooting into enemies, and then we saw other enemies just emanating malice and stuff. And also, I would like to throw out there that we are calling it malice. However, just a little disclaimer: we still don't know for sure that it is malice. I think it is definitely the same like substance, but it's clearly more concentrated.
Yeah.
It's even like it's more concentrated in every way. Color wise, it's redder. It's goopier.
denser.
It's right. And then at the end of the most recent trailer, we saw a literal tendril like come out of Ganondorf's chest and seemingly attack Link. So it's like, what,
And be
what
strong
I mean?
enough to, like, destroy the Master Sword, apparently. Like, that's...
Which, yeah, I did a tweet the other day about that. That right there is so... Like, HMK caught onto it immediately because that's a lot bigger than people are thinking. It's like, oh, shoot, they destroyed the Master Sword. Well, anyway, what about this gameplay? And I'm like, no,
that's important.
Exactly. Lore-wise, the Master Sword cannot be touched by evil.
Right.
Cannot. It is impossible. That you literally have Wolf Link walk in its vicinity, and it cannot stand, you know, like Twilight being around it or whatever. And so it, you know, like Ganondorf's power, which is supposed to be omnipotent, was because, you know, it came from the Triforce of Power, which is a whole, you know, other lore thing. But anyway, the only thing that could expel even a curse that originated from the Triforce of Power was the Master Sword. So this thing, I mean, clearly it is the holder of, you know, the origin of evil, Demise's essence, all sorts of stuff, and yet we are seeing it shattered and corrupted by this malice part 2, if you will. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's extremely interesting. And, you know, for the lore heads out there, we just can't get enough, you know. We're just nipping at the bud for this game to release already.
How many days is it now? 75, 74, something
like
that?
It's like 64 or 5.
Yeah.
64?
I think it's 63.
We passed the nice day.
Oh, that's great. That's
we
10
passed
days less than I thought.
I think it might be 63 today. I think.
Oh, that's great.
You know what, HG? You have just enough time to go through Outer Wilds, man. I mean,
you have plenty of time. It's not that long of a game. It's as short as...
it's not.
I mean, it's actually very short, depending on how you approach it. But
if you're really, really good at reading and you know, like environmental clues, you'll have a much quicker time through it.
It'll be rewarding either way. Everybody play Outer Wilds. It's something to do while the game releases.
If their sales numbers go up after this, that would be amazing.
Incredible.
But anyway. But yeah, I think the notion of just, you know, weighing in on the weapon crafting. I personally was never the type that had a very big problem with weapon durability in the first game. However, if something like this can be, like, for instance, you know, maybe these parts are what will break, and then you can replace the part on the weapon, you know, or something like that. I don't know.
Interesting.
Well, you know, I definitely think that they're doing something with the durability system, and I think that it's directly related to this crafting that we see. But, you know, whatever it is, I'm a bit of a pacifist when it comes to, like, combat systems in particular. I'm not one of those, like, combat system elitist people like, oh, you know, the Halo feels so much better than Call of Duty because of blah, 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 or vice versa. To me, if I'm playing that game and that's how it feels, that's how it feels. You know, I'm going to try to get better at playing that game. For Breath of the Wild, you know, obviously they had their system. So what it did was it forced me to adapt to that. I had my stronger weapons that I would pull out in stronger battles. And then I had my weapons that would just rotate. And then obviously once you had the Master Sword in the base game, you really didn't need much else. You just used that until it ran out. And then, I mean, if you're just walking from place to place, it'll probably come back by the time that you are in a fight again. So what I'm trying to say is I didn't really have a problem with the weapon durability system. I do think that it was less than a perfect system, but I mean,
The way I feel about
that's
it
not
is...
a hill that, yeah.
It grew on me over time. Like, I think I was on the bandwagon initially where you're just like, I don't like it. But I have always understood why they did it, you know, and
right.
I respect why they did it.
Right.
And... But it's probably telling when so many people... It's like the most thing I hear all the time, every comment, every time I talk about anything gameplay related, there's always that mentioned, like even before...
My own brother has still not finished the game because of that.
So if you have this many people complaining about it, it's probably a good idea to revamp it, at least slightly. Like, yeah. I don't think it was the worst system ever. I don't think it was terrible. But I do think that when you have this many people complaining, you probably should do something.
Absolutely. And I think that's what they're... that's why I'm assuming this is addressing that in some way.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next thing. Do you guys think that what we've seen in the art book implies playable Zelda?
Not really. I don't think so.
Well, we didn't see much Zelda-specific stuff in the art book, really.
There's really only one thing. It's this image here.
I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, it's only one thing, and it shows, you know, Zelda in a large cavern with a torch, which presumably underground. And the only weird thing about it is that she's underground. I mean, sorry, by herself. The only weird thing
Right.
about it is that she's by herself. And it's the only thing in the whole art book where you don't see her with Link or yeah, which isn't much evidence. But if this was going to be a thing, this is what I expected it would look like.
Absolutely. I do think that there's about a 70-80% chance that she will be playable, but I don't think she'll be playable to the extent that a lot of people are hoping. I think that it's going to be one of the... I mean, Zelda clearly... Okay, another one of those things that people are kind of sleeping on talking about is the fact that Zelda's falling. It's obviously very important. Very important. They've shown it to us twice. Actually, thrice. In all three of the actual trailers, she has fallen. And so they really want you to understand Zelda going underground.
Yep.
You know, like she's going down there. And then conveniently now we see Zelda walking around, sometimes without Link, like you just showed, with these intricate, like, ancient ruins underneath the ground. And so I think that potentially
and she has a
it'll
Sheikah
be...
slate.
And she does, exactly. I think that potential... And it's like a revamped Sheikah Switch, to be honest. She's playing some Animal Crossing on there. You know, passing the time for Link to come save her or something. But anyways, I think that it's not going to be, you know, because a lot of people want Zelda and Link to be essentially swappable for gameplay.
Oh yeah, I don't think that.
You know,
yeah, that I don't.
Yeah,
think.
no. Well, and you know, we've got all this concept art for Link and Link's armor and all that stuff, but we've got one for Zelda, and it's the one outfit. Now, of course, it's a full model. Which means that we are going to be seeing a lot of her. It's not just going to be a couple pre-rendered cutscenes. Like, for instance, I don't think Zelda's dying. I think that a lot of people do assume Zelda's dying. I think it's possible, sure, but I mean, like, seeing stuff like this makes me think, like, especially after the last trailer when we saw the torches following with her. Like everything that Nintendo puts in every shot of their trailers, it's why we speculate over every little thing, because they know what they're doing. Okay, like they put these things there so that you can make some guesses and whatever. Like the torch is going to fall down with her and she's going to relight, and then she's going to be like, "Oh, where am I?" And then she's going to be walking around, and it's going to lead to scenes like the one that you're showing us. That's what I think is going to happen personally. Now I don't know for what, or for who, or whatever. But clearly Zelda will find somebody and will ask them to aid Link.
So
I think that's something that's going to happen.
So what do you think, Hyrule Gamer?
Honestly, I mean, like, going off this image, and I remember when I seen this image, actually, for the first time, I was... The first thing that came to mind is, like, I mean, obviously excitement of, like, oh my god, Zelda, underground, more on that. That's so cool. But I feel like, generally, it just opens up the speculation even more, which is essentially what this whole game is currently. I don't know. I kind of just agree with Bandit, actually, on everything he touched on. I feel like it's definitely possible and more likely to happen than not likely to happen. It's just a case of, like, how it will be done. I think I've said it in a few videos before, but I personally think it will be done in segments, if anything. Like, there'll be playable Zelda sections of the game, but I agree that I don't think it's anywhere close to the extent a lot of people think it will be or want it to be.
I've heard a lot of people don't want her to be weaker than Link. They don't want her to be a damsel in distress. They don't want her to be in danger in comparison to Link. And I think that that's just not likely. Like, first of all, there was an interview for Breath of the Wild a while ago where they mentioned playable Zelda to Eiji Aonuma back then. And he's basically like, if we add in Zelda and we give her all the abilities to do everything Link does, then what's left for Link to do? You know?
That's a big question, actually, but I guess we won't necessarily go into that.
Okay. Well, he said that. So if they do add Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think that they're going to go back on that. They'll have to give her a different way to play to Link. I think she will be weaker. You know, they might be stealth sections for all I know. If she's playable, I suspect that she's going to be basically what Bandit said, looking in the underground, stuck in the underground, probably trying to get back to Link. And this image kind of supports that idea. This is actually something that I speculated on before the leaks came out.
Yeah.
Also,
I think... Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I also don't think she dies because there in the trailer she says, "I don't think that you are strong enough to defeat him." To Link, talking about presumably Ganondorf, and in order for that to happen, that means that they must have gone through the event where they saw Ganondorf, and she fell, and so they know about him, like they know about him, and Link's in the sky and Zelda's somewhere else probably. So maybe they're communicating through the Sheikah Slater or somehow. Uh, so they must have gone through that event, and she must have survived that event to be able to say that to Link, I think. Unless she's a ghost. But I don't think they would do that because that would be narratively very disappointing to me. It just removes all the stakes from Death of Zelda as a ghost, and she could be brought back to life later. Just really wish I hope they don't do that.
I mean, technically they have done that in, Spirit Tracks and Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess was different though, because that's more like a
possessed Zelda kind of thing.
I just don't like
her
that.
Essence. Well, it leads to a lot of speculation, as does everything in The Legend of Zelda. But I mean, number one, she was removed from her body, which implies ghost or spirit or something.
Yeah.
And then number two, she had dissipated apparently entirely.
Yeah, and then the next time you see, like, there was like a very small section saying that she was alive, but at the time there was no indication that she had survived that moment. Like, I thought she was dead. I'm sure every person that was playing
that was definitely the implication.
Yeah.
If she hadn't died there, then the scene has very little emotional impact. It's like, oh, okay, you're just playing this card right now. That's cool. We'll see you later.
I kind of just wish she had remained dead, and Midna would have become important for that. I know they can't do that, obviously, for lore reasons, but still.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the coolest darn thing when they did do it, though, because for a second, Midna had become, the Princess of Light and Twilight, and that's just the coolest freaking thing.
So cool.
But, but, I mean, of course, you can't kill Zelda.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You can't do that. So anyway, I think that Zelda being playable to a lesser degree in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, will add to kind of a gameplay refresher moment, Like you go from the overworld main gameplay with Link, and then you have, like, I don't know, maybe there are things that Zelda has to not only explore down there, but hide from, or, sneak, maybe she's more of a stealth type thing down there. I don't know.
Maybe
this
she
is
activates
obviously
things. Like maybe
pure, maybe she activates things, and this is all. It's 110%
we're all speculating.
Speculative.
This is one of the interesting things about these leaks. Apart from the weapon crafting, which seems basically confirmed, a lot of this stuff is still, like, quite up in the air. Like they're like I said, it's fertile ground for speculation. Like, we can sit here and stare at these images all day, but we can't be sure. We can't be sure what they're implying.
Yeah. I mean, when the leaks first came out, something I had discussed with a friend about them, like, I had looked through the art book and all that, and I was like, honestly, this kind of just makes me even more excited than I already was. And, like, I know not necessarily all these visuals will actually be in the game as we've seen them, or at all, but just the amount of stuff there that was new to what we've already seen in the trailers, or building on what we've already seen in the trailers, it's just got me so much more excited for the game, despite all of it being completely speculative. It's opened so many more doors of potential for the game, and it's going to be amazing, is basically where I'm leading to with that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm shaking my fist in the air. It better be exciting.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I will say, one of the weirdest things to me about the notion of Zelda walking around in the underground is the fact that Link apparently has spelunking gear now.
Yeah, I noticed that one.
Yeah, that wire.
Yeah,
and the thing is, that's in the trailer too.
Yes, yeah, the spool
the spool of stuff. And I highly doubt he's going to be, like, hitching himself to friggin' trees or something, like up on the overworld, and, like, pulling a Jurassic Park, and trying to, like, haul things around with this. Clearly, with its positioning, I'm just assuming it is for spelunking.
Well,
and for rappelling down or something like that.
so I just sent it to you, and the problem with this particular piece of gear is that the spool is attached to his waist, and it has a little like energy beam that seems to be going
that
in a
goes to
direction,
the-
and
yeah.
it's connected to not rocks for spelunking. It's connected to the Sheikah slate, the Zelda's
Right.
Sheikah slate that she's supposed to have. What's up with that? What's going on
I
with
got
that?
no freaking clue, man. I am not gonna lie. It is, and they even specifically proved that it's connected, at least in some way, because you see that little, power, whatever you want to call that, energy or whatever,
Energy flowing into
attached, right,
Yeah.
flowing into the Sheikah slate. So I got no freaking clue.
Do you have any ideas from the image, Hyrule Gamer?
It might come as a surprise, but I also have no idea. It's intriguing, but in such a mysterious way.
Well, why would you need to be connected to the Sheikah slate and then be able to move away from it while
Yeah.
not being
Yeah,
detached
it's-
from it? What? That's the question.
Yeah.
Why would the Sheikah slate need to be apart from him?
Yeah, like
And Zelda has it, right? So
yeah. Is she like controlling Link via
is there
wire?
is there some reason that they cannot meet?
Yeah.
There's some particular reason that they can't meet, but yet they still have to interact. And maybe that gives way to some puzzles, like two-sided puzzles, like there can I don't know.
I don't know.
Obviously, that's still speculation, but it implies that since she has that, because if he had it, he wouldn't need the spool.
Yeah.
So she has the slate, he has the spool, they're connected. He can't get to her. I don't know.
You don't see
It's
him in this
intriguing,
image
but I don't
holding
know.
the Sheikah slate. Like you don't see him connecting it.
You never do.
Yeah. So
You never do in the trailers. You never do in this book. It's the only person that is shown holding it, including official publicly released art, by the way, is Zelda. So,
quite strange. Quite strange.
yeah. They're trying to tell us something.
I just don't know
I
what.
don't really know what.
Yeah.
But
All right. Here's the $1 million question. Do you guys think the leaks imply the existence of dungeons?
Yes. That yeah, I'll see what you think as well.
Well, I'm not. That's not in response to you saying yes necessarily. That's just me just humming. You know what I mean? There are so many like locations that. So yeah, like when Link is standing there facing the Magatama, right? That implies he just went through, and given that there's only 7 of them, which is again a bit of speculation, but there are 7 on
seems like
the
a likely-
mural stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 7 surrounding the Raru character, which by the way, are we in agreement that character is Raru
Yes.
or
Yeah,
called
yeah,
Raru?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, cool. Anyway, but there are 7 surrounding that character. So I'm assuming 7, and 7 is a pretty common number for like dungeons in the Zelda series, or at least it's right up there with the number that would be the number of dungeons in other games. So given that you would have to go through one to collect one of these Magatamas or tiers or whatever, that makes sense. And they do have a lot of location just arts, you know what I mean? Like page 148 of the book has like a big floating spiral looking thing with a little placeholder for, I'm assuming, Link.
Yeah.
And it's got a grand entrance. It's if I didn't know any better, I'd say that there is a dungeon entrance. You know what I mean? So it's like, I would like to think so.
Yeah, there's
I
a lot
would.
of locations that are large and sprawling. Link is quite
Right.
small, and it's just
With
the kind
like
of
entrances and stuff. Yeah.
it's the kind of thing you would expect a dungeon to look like.
Yes.
And then you see what presumably are the tiers that you're collecting, and the locations look like, oh, you just went through this big ordeal to get these tiers. So I don't know if that means that it's going to be dungeons, but it makes me more hopeful than I was before I saw these images.
I'd say it's probably up there with the percentage chance of Zelda being playable. It's one of those things that's like we've seen enough at this point to where it's like, I think there's a good chance. I think there's like a 70% chance that there's going to be dungeons and at least somewhat playable Zelda in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me it feels like just waiting on confirmation of it in a way. it feels like everything's there, hinting at it wise, for it to make sense. And like going through all the different locations in the art book that kind of make you think, is this a dungeon? This is completely speculative, of course, but the vibe just fits. It feels like this is their ideas for dungeons. I don't know, it's just like I can't think of necessarily what else all these different locations are that we're seeing. And going off
I mean, that's a very good point.
Yeah, and like going off how...
Like, what else
could they be?
Yeah, exactly. And like the Zelda team are known for listening to a lot of fan feedback, and Dungeons was very, very topical from Breath of the Wild, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's something they've looked at heavily going into this game. And yeah, that's just kind of the vibe I get from those images.
There's a lot of people, like, in my comment sections, maybe from the nature of some of the videos that I've made, but there's a lot of people in my comment sections that are like passionate. No dungeons, no buy is basically their attitude to this. They're like, I will purchase this if there's dungeons. I will spend my money on this, even though I only kind of like Breath of the Wild, or I got a little tired of Breath of the Wild. But if they have dungeons, that's I will shift my tune. I will go there. I will enjoy it. But that's a deal breaker for me. There's a lot of people that are like that, especially in my audience.
That's fair. All opinions are fair unless they're factually wrong. It's fair.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, if that's what you like Zelda games for, and you would like for the next Zelda game to feel like a Zelda game, I understand.
Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
Now me, I'm gonna be buying it either way. I ain't gonna lie. I think it's probably the same for all of us.
Yeah.
And I think the vast majority of people will as well. One of the things we can't get around is the fact that Breath of the Wild is definitively not only the most popular Zelda game of all time, but it is one of the most popular games of all time.
Yep.
I mean, I think it either passed or is nearing 30 million total units sold.
It's getting close,
which is an insane number. Where the next biggest Zelda game was Twilight Princess, I believe.
Measly 10
sold. Yeah, a measly 10. It's so small, which is still like a huge number. You know? But anyway, we've just got to accept the fact that there are a bunch of new Zelda fans, and they're fans of Breath of the Wild. They don't know to ask for dungeons. That's a strange ask for them.
Well, I'm not sure about that actually,
thing.
Because I think like people like us that keep hammering for dungeons have done a good job of propagandizing even Breath of the Wild fans, because
we did good.
Yeah, like I see them a lot. Even people that have only played Breath of the Wild, they're like, you know what? Okay, I don't mind. Let's give the dungeons a chance. It seems to be like everybody's pro dungeon, even if you've never tried one.
Yeah, but they probably wouldn't die on that hill, for instance.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think that people, both new and old to the franchise, are all collectively asking for dungeons. So yeah, I would like to hope that these things that we see are in fact dungeons.
Okay. There's a couple of images that looks like that you're in an interior with a surface that's underwater. Like the roof looks like it's underwater. Have you seen these images here?
Yes.
This is one of the examples.
You know what? I mean, yes, I've seen that, but I don't think I ever put two and two together. I just thought that was a cool not Sheikah, sorry, Zonai ceiling or something.
But
no,
that's possible. But it does have ripples. It does kind of look like it's underwater. Well, first, Hyrule Gamer, what do you think? Underwater areas?
I think underwater areas will be in the game, but I'm not necessarily convinced that this is one of them. I think the ceiling kind of gives off that vibe, but I'm not completely sold on that being the case. I definitely get what you mean with the ripples. It does look like that, but I don't know. I'm not completely sold on that image specifically being underwater, but I do think there will be underwater locations of some kind. Hopefully,
is that a thing that you would like? Is that a thing that you would really?
I'm a very, very big fan of the Lakebed Temple in Twilight Princess. I loved just diving under the water finding like even the entrance. It was like a little set of ruins. Then you go for a tunnel, and then you're in this big abandoned Zora temple. It was so cool, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be Zora related in Tears of the Kingdom. Just something underwater in the same sort of vein as that. I think it'd be really cool.
I would really like underwater exploration. Have you ever like taken the camera underneath the ocean over by that tropical village in
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, I've messed around with that before.
It's basically like a whole like luscious underwater environment. It's like it's beautifully colored. It even has colors. But you can't really see it like over the top. You can only see it if you like mess around with the camera or you have a mod to go underneath there and look about. It's quite detailed, almost to like they wanted to include underwater stuff, but they didn't have the time and they had to cut it. So I would, that's a big thing for me. It'd be wonderful if they included underwater.
So upon further inspection, I now think that is water. At least on the ceiling there, because it has the water texture on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So if you look in the actual body of the ceiling, like not at the edges or anything, and then you compare it to the water texture from Breath of the Wild, it is the same.
Or at least color.
Really, well, not color necessarily, but
Like texture.
like the normal map. Yeah,
Yeah.
the texture.
Yeah, I can see what you mean now, actually, now that I've got the comparison.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it is a water texture. And then of course that, when you look at it that way and then you start looking at those like crystals or gem things or whatever that are sitting in it kind of half up, half down is what it kind of looks like. Giving off those like rings of ripples. Now I'm almost like, okay, now I'm like 90% convinced that is water. Maybe not 90, maybe about 80. But anyway, I was just over here clicking enhance, on my magical computer here. And I don't know, I saw that and I thought, you know what? Actually, you might be onto something because that looks like the water texture. So
the only other thing that I was thinking of is that maybe this is the generic shrine thing that's gonna appear. Well, first of all, do you guys think that we're going to have shrine-like structures in Tears of the Kingdom?
Absolutely.
To a degree, yeah. I don't think it will be as heavy, but I think it will be present.
Do you think it's going to be those spirals,
Sorry,
those green swirls?
Possibly.
Do you think they will replace? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they could. It's just, I don't know, with the green spirals, I feel like there's been a few really good ideas as to what they could be. I honestly don't know yet. I think it's up there in terms of likelihood.
Sorry, I'm still on this picture here. It could just be because I just played Outer Wilds, but I mean, what if those crystals are holding the water up there?
I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you see on the sides, there's these holes on the wall, and you see more water past the holes. So it's like it's not just on the top; it's surrounding the whole environment.
Right. I just got like this shot down my spine of like excitement. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like you see something cool in a video game, and you turn into a kid for like a second, and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to like explore that room." And then you're like, "Wait, compose yourself. Anyway. I'm very excited for that. What were we talking about? Sorry.
Related to that, I'm assuming you both played Elden Ring. Am I right?
I have not.
Hell yes.
Hyrule Gamer.
I'm on like the fifth playthrough.
I'm like lacking on every good game.
No Outer Wilds, no Elden Ring.
The Elden Ring's on the list.
If you get
as
it
well.
on the PC, you hit me up, sir. I will let me solo them. Just kidding. But I will help out with some bosses if you want, sir. I love that game.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Well, basically what I was mentioning is that Elden Ring has this reoccurring moment where you are like just filled with wonder. The first time you go down one of those elevators is a good example, and you see the stars underneath the cavern. Like a lot of people just adore that moment. I think that if I found some underwater exploration and got into this area and I was underwater, I think that would be comparable, because I'm really not fully expecting underwater exploration. I'm not convinced. I think that
Right.
this might just be the generic shrine look for it.
Yeah.
So if it turns out that this does represent underwater exploration, I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to have a elevator moment.
Elevator moment. I'm hoping for several elevator moments in this game. If we're being honest, the expectations are probably a bit too high. We probably need to bring them down just a little bit collectively as a community. But yeah, I'm right there with you.
Okay, next thing. Let's talk about Raru over here.
Yes, I've been waiting.
So,
I want to talk so much about this dude. Sorry, go on.
So Raru seems to be the guy that's shown in the mural in the trailers.
Yep.
There just seems to be no way around him. I actually didn't check. Did you guys have videos before talking about what you thought he was?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
What did you think he
yes.
was, Hyrule Gamer?
I think I've said a few different ideas, but I think the one I was most on board with was some sort of Zonai deity or something along those lines. It's definitely not the only thing I've been on board with at different points, but I think most recently that's the idea I've been most on board with, or prior to the leaks. Sorry. Yeah.
That's probably that's probably what he's going to end up being, something like that. What about you, Bandit?
So, Hylia.
Right.
But obviously I'm wrong, right? Because that's Raru.
Yeah, highly
Right.
I went with for a while too.
Well, I'm Hylia asterisk, okay? Because all right, here we go. So the figure that everybody assumed was Zelda is actually, now I think one of them is Zelda. There's that one that looks like it's levitating or falling or something. I don't know. The one that's like horizontal.
Yeah.
I think that one is supposed to represent Zelda falling because,
Okay.
like I said, now I get it. It looks like she's levitating because the dress is like hanging downwards. I get it.
And the hair is going
And the
back.
hair, yeah, I totally get it. But something with that seems to me to echo Zelda falling. Something about it, because or descending to the underground or something, because they replaced the footage of Zelda falling with that reveal in the trailer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Okay.
when they
Yes.
did what was that? The third trailer that revealed that one. When they did that, by the way, we've had 4 trailers for this game. We've had a butt ton of trailers, and like we're still asking for more. I get it. We need like a nice story one, but like after some point, they're going to be like, listen, we probably shouldn't have double digits worth of trailers for this game. Even Breath of the Wild didn't have that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being, in the first trailer, boom, Zelda fell. In the second trailer, it started off with Zelda falling. In the third trailer, it starts off with this mural thing, and you see what looks like Zelda horizontal in the air. And so, I don't know, it's just, I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels like it's related to what's happening with Zelda. So anyway, for now, I'm just going to say that one is Zelda, maybe, or maybe, I don't know. But anyway, regardless, the one that Raru, right, is touching or cupping hands with to form a complete circle, that one I no longer think is Zelda, which is why I thought the Raru figure
You think
was
it's this one?
Hylia. Yes, absolutely, because we saw that character in the recent trailer as well. And the thing is, that character looks like Zelda, does she not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very obvious, actually. Like, very specifically designed to kind of look like Zelda, but to not be Zelda. And then, a lot of people were saying, well, maybe the levitating was like, Hylia exiting Zelda's body, and that's Hylia, that exited Zelda. But like the whole vibe that I get from this concept art with the basket and stuff is that this character has been around for a while. This isn't like a new, like, oh my God, I'm alive again. What am I, we gotta rejoin me back to my body. That being said, I do think in some way this is either Hylia or Zelda's mom or one of Zelda's ancestors or something, because it's just so stupid similar to Zelda. It's like it's not even funny. It even has essentially the goddess dress or the goddess garment or whatever. That's
the white
Zelda was
part.
wearing.
Yep.
Right. So it's just so similar. And then did you guys notice all the like not parallels necessarily, but like opposites between this. I'm just gonna call her Hylia for now. I know that hasn't been concluded, but I'm just gonna call her Hylia. But have you seen all of the stuff between Hylia and Rauru? Like Hylia has the ankle bracelet on her right ankle, and Rauru has it on the left, and they obviously they share similar tabards, but they also have the hand cupping mural and all that stuff. And I think that the two of them are meant to symbolize in some way that Ouroboros symbol with
Yes.
the two serpents.
Yeah.
Now the Ouroboros symbol, I say Ouroboros with a mental asterisk as well, because Ouroboros specifically is the snake eating itself, or rather a snake eating another snake, which is then eating itself. The symbology of life into death into life, like eternity, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Now, the one that's behind the Zelda logo, like the Tears of the Kingdom logo, is an Ouroboros, because it's snake into snake, beginning to end. But the one that's on like the wall, the door that Link opens in, I think, like the third trailer, that is not an Ouroboros. Those are two twin serpents that are both facing the same way. That is less of a beginning to end concept, to me at least, and more of a yin yang, more of a opposites that are equal type thing. And then when you apply that concept with the whole, like I said, the ankle bracelets and all the symbology between the two, Rauru and Hylia, I don't know. Obviously, I don't have an answer for it, but it really feels like the Sage of Light, Rauru, and Hylia are back together. I don't know. Anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts.
So let me ask you this, Hyrule Gamer. So, okay, let's put it this way. Do we think that the arm that's grasping Ganondorf in the first trailer is Raru's arm? And do we think that that's the same arm that Link gets?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah. Obviously it might not be, but with everything we've seen now with the art book leaked,
It looks identical.
It's just
so.
that it's one of those ones where like I feel like I can't see any other good fit or a fit that's as good as that. Obviously there is potentially other fits. I don't know. To me, it seems like that definitely is the case.
And do you think that, well, the other lady that's here in the picture,
Yeah.
do you think she's Hylia, or do you think she's Zelda? What's your thoughts?
Honestly, it is kind of similar to Bandit. I think it's something in relation to Zelda, whether that's, like he said, an ancestor, her mom, whatever it may be. Which is something I'm actually really, really excited to learn about, how this figure actually, or what their role in the game is. Because obviously that's not someone, I mean, the same with Raru, that we've not seen like in the flesh in any trailers yet. And potentially might not. It's just, it's, I don't have any other words for it other than it's incredibly intriguing to actually go on to learn what this is going to be. And the speculation and discussions only amplifies that.
So I'm in an interesting position because I'm actually not sure on this one. It's finally we disagree on something, maybe a little bit. I think it's possible that this is Zelda's mother. That's the thing that I'm willing to go. I don't think it's Zelda, and I don't think that it's Hylia, and I don't think that this is the person that we see in the trailer, where the person that reaches out their arm to Link. In that trailer, that person is significantly more pale. They don't have the tattoos on the arms. This lady has darker skin and stark white tattooed arms. Don't think it's the same person, even though they're wearing the same clothes. I think that person is probably Zelda. And I also don't think that this is Hylia. But it's for a weird reason, and Nintendo might just ignore this reason and just dismiss this. It's because in Skyward Sword, Demise talks about how Zelda doesn't look anything like Hylia. In Skyward Sword, when he's describing Zelda and how Hylia gave up her godly form to take on a mortal form, Demise talks about how Hylia was way more awesome, way more beautiful. It looks nothing like Zelda. There's little sentences there about that. So I don't. This looks like Bandit said. Look, this looks quite like Zelda. So of course Nintendo might just dismiss that. You know, they might throw that out the window. But assuming that that's still the case, I don't think this is Hylia. It might be Zelda's mother. It might be a human incarnation of Hylia, but I don't think this is Hylia's godly form.
I will say, as a little added note to what you're saying, the world of Breath of the Wild has put spins on some, Zelda lore and stuff like that. Like, for instance, they didn't even spell Tingle right for the Tingle Islands, but certain other things are very specific and exactly the same. The layout of Lon Lon Ranch, the all the stuff from Skyward Sword. We've got which I forget which shrine, or not shrine. Is it the shrines?
The purification shrines.
Yeah, the purification thingamajigs.
Yeah,
whatever they're called. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they like one of them, or maybe all of them. Again, we've been theorizing on this stuff for years, so some of it I need a refresher on. But one of them or all of them is exactly from Skyward Sword, like the Skyview Temple or whatever. Like complete down to the fixtures on the pillars and stuff like that. Like it is literally 1-for-1 a copy. And then the Hylia statues are also like 1-for-1 copies from Skyward Sword. So there are certain things that are exactly the same, which is why, I think that aids your point. I think this design is very deliberate. And if it's supposed to be, I don't know. I think it's very deliberate that it looks like Zelda. And so, they could just be saying, yeah, Hylia looked like Zelda back in the first days. But also, like you were saying, Demise did mention that Hylia was, I don't remember him saying, like, she was more beautiful or anything, but I do remember him saying something along the lines of, like...
I don't remember the exact wording, but that she was more impressive somehow and looks nothing like a human.
Yeah.
So... it's interesting that you mentioned that. That's actually a very good point. And there might be a reason why the Skyward Sword stuff specifically has such a close relationship to Breath of the Wild. The director for Skyward Sword is Fujibayashi, and he was the writer and director for Skyward Sword. And he is also the director for Breath of the Wild. And he's also the director for Tears of the Kingdom. Commonwealth Realms, who I also had on the podcast.
Yeah, I saw that.
He sees these 3 games as a trilogy. He thinks that Fujibayashi is leading up to something, and he sees that he sees Tears of the Kingdom as an opportunity for him to finish up. So I'm not 100% sure that that's the case, but he makes a compelling point. Like, he makes a compelling case. So if anything's going to be a 1-for-1 lore thing, it's going to be with Skyward Sword, because that's his baby. Yeah. He made that.
Well, it already has been too.
Oh,
with Breath of the Wild.
And you just you quoted me what Demise says in Skyward Sword. He says, "How pathetic! This bag of flesh pales in comparison to the magnificence of her previous form." So the fact that he mentions flesh specifically is also interesting, because clearly this person that looks like Zelda has flesh.
Looks kind of fleshy.
Yeah.
Has a tan.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no, I see exactly what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I do think it'd be a little tacky to just like have Hylia walking around like, "Oh, hello. Would you like a berry?" Like it's a little tacky. But on the other hand, it's like, well, who else? Like maybe an ancestor of Zelda's, sure. But in that case, like,
well,
there's a lot of questions there. Go on.
I believe that much of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is about new stuff.
New lore.
Yes, yeah. New lore. One of the things that in the Creating the Champion books, they have, Breath of the Wild, and then they have the Era of Myth, which is all the past games. And, they're connected to Breath of the Wild. There's clear references to a lot of the past stuff that's happened in the game world. But they're really far away, and Breath of the Wild in a way kind of starts up its own timeline. Whatever follows from Breath of the Wild is very fresh, very new, and connected still, from some distance from the past, but quite far removed. Like quite far removed. Like it starts a new focus, I think. And I think that that's what they want to do. It has new lore. You know, I always thought that the guy in the mural was not going to be Hylia. I always thought, you know, that's going to be a new character. That I think that they
Well,
want.
good for you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think they want to make new stuff. So this person, I also agree, is the person cupping the guy's hand. I just think that this is going to be mostly unrelated to things that came before.
Except for the name Raru, but
Yes,
I agree.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. In fact, that is actually exciting because I've gotten into just doing like explanatory videos these days. And if it's new lore, yeah, I'd love to like learn it myself, digest it, make some content on that. That's a good point just for the community in general. The last time we had some actual like new stuff and we weren't constantly like pointing back to, you know, the previous games, like, oh my god, you know, it's Tangle Islands, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was Skyward Sword, and that was, you know, 12 years ago.
Oh no, was it really?
Yeah, 12 years ago, man. So that was the last time we had an injection of actual new Zelda lore. Because Breath of the Wild, let's be honest, was really not new. I mean, the newest thing about Breath of the Wild was the Sheikah constructs. Everything else was like, this is a reference to the past, this is a reference to the past. You know, we've got even Calamity Ganon itself. I mean,
Reference
what is
to
its
the past.
name?
And now Tears of
Ganon.
and now Tears of the Kingdom
Yeah.
comes out, and he's got Ganondorf coming back. So
Exactly.
more
So
references to
it's
the
a
past.
it's a bunch of past stuff. So yeah, I think that some new lore would be very refreshing, very welcoming. And it also means that we cannot really nail
Predict.
it down at all. Yeah.
One of the things that
Before
Commonwealth Realms was talking about is that he thinks that it's going to wrap this up. You know, it's going to wrap up a lot of the things that we assumed, allowing space for new Zelda games. So if he's right, you know, maybe this game will. Maybe you're correct, and this game will still reference a great deal of it of the past, and maybe leave space for the next one to be more future oriented.
I mean, I don't think that they need to do or not do anything to leave room for future Zelda games. They can literally, like, I can probably just rattle off 100 random ideas that would all work within the timeline for just like placements of other Zelda games. They also are not afraid clearly to just make a Zelda game and say, yeah, I don't know how it connects to the timeline. Deal with it. That's
yeah.
Breath of the Wild. So I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by trying to say whether or not this is the end of the franchise or the end of the continuity itself. You know, so, but I do think it's an interesting concept. I think Zeltic did a video recently where he talked about the fact that just like Skyward Sword is the beginning, you know, Tears of the Kingdom can be the ending of the timeline. You know what I mean? As far as lore is concerned, it could be the ending, and then the future of the franchise will just flesh out, you know, the let's be honest, the very big gaps in between the games that we definitely could use some games for.
Oh, for sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think that it would be very cool if it had some sort of, at the end, you know, for Zelda lore type, you know, we finally beat Demise. We finally, you know, whatever.
Oof. I don't want us to beat Demise.
I don't think that it is going to happen, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't want it to happen first, but actually, I'm mindful of your time. We're getting around the point where we should stop. So let me just ask you one question. So Hyrule Gamer, let's start with you. Do you think Demise is going to play a role here, lore-wise, or make a return in some way?
Oh, that is a great question as well. That's tough to say. Honestly, I think there will be some sort of influence or role, or possibly even just mention. I don't think it will be as far as some ideas I've seen with Demise actually being present in the game. But I think there will be something with Demise mentioned or playing some sort of role. That's as far as I think it's going to go.
The reason I ask is because, well, I see Demise and the cycle in general kind of metaphorically. Like Demise is more like a concept. That's why he just doesn't die, because in every age something like Demise arises, and there's in lore reasons for that, but there's also like out of lore archetypal reasons for something to not be killable, and you can only seal it away, you can only temporarily fight it back, and he seems to be an embodiment of, well, malice, I guess, or hatred. He talks about hatred. That's his one characteristic. That's his one motivation that he had in Skyward Sword. He hates the gods for some reason. Never elaborated. In Twilight Princess, when Ganondorf gets sent to the Twilight Realm and he was executed, he says that the hatred of the Twilight people, because of their oppression, was what rejuvenated him. It revived him, And in Breath of the Wild, the stuff that emanates from Calamity Ganon's body is called malice. So he seems like an embodiment of resentment, hatred, malice, and the spirit of the hero is literally just the spirit of heroism coming back age after age to beat it back in an eternal cycle, just like in real life. Things like that happen. That's why there's such a why it's such a compelling story. That's how I see Demise. And if they put a permanent end to him, I wouldn't like that, because that's not how it works in real life. You don't put a permanent end to resentment and malice. You beat it back again. Maybe you beat it back so hard it can't come back in a similar form. It has to come back in a new way. But you can't actually beat it.
In contrast, you can't give it a beginning either, because those are, like you said, I mean, those are just forces of nature, entropy or whatever, but we did give it a beginning, in Zelda lore. Because Zelda lore has a creation story and has, all this stuff. And by default, it kind of feels religious almost,
Right.
By default, there is an enemy, there is an end game. There is an end, Zelda originated as a Christian game, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a lot of ties. Link had a cross on his shield in the first game. The Book of Magic was actually supposed to just be the Bible. Stuff like that. Like there were a lot of just implications everywhere. Heck, the whole Triforce thing, I don't know if y'all are familiar with like
The Trinity.
Christian teachings and stuff. Yeah, is supposed to be reminiscent of the Trinity and stuff. But, that being said, obviously it's far from a Christian game or franchise in general. It just so happens to have a similar creation story and similar concepts of good and evil and light and dark and
Right.
stuff like that. That being said, we can sort of use like a lens like that to try to see where they're going with like the concepts of evil. And in the Christian realm, there's like Lucifer, like Satan, the devil, stuff like that. Demons, that follow that person. And to me, I always assumed that was kind of what Demise was.
He's literally called the Demon King.
Exactly. He's the Satan, he's the Lucifer. Now the thing is, Satan doesn't die, right?
Right.
And so, I think it's kind of similar in Zelda. We technically didn't see him die. He just kind of got sucked up into the Master Sword. By the way, I did want to say that you are completely on point with him being more of a representation of a force, though. His original name in Japanese is the Shuen no Mono, which is to say the person of demise, which is to say just the bringer of demise. We call him Demise in English because we like names. But, in Japanese, he's literally just the bringer of demise. In German, his name is the Todbringer, which is, and I know that's not a German accent, but I can't do a German accent, but anyway, which is to say the death bringer. In French, it's the Avatar du Néant, which is the Avatar of the Void. So, I mean, each name that he has aside from English is really just saying he is the representative of, the void, death, demise, evil. So you're spot on with that. He's more of a force. But anyway, that being said, logistically, I think that he's absolutely going to have an appearance in Tears of the Kingdom. Because I mean, he had a valley named after him in Breath of the Wild, which I guess is whatever, because there's valleys named after like pebbles from from previous Zelda games in Breath of the Wild. It seems like they've got some sort of reference to everything. So that in and of itself is not that big, or not that much proof. But we also have, like I was saying earlier, the one-to-one recreations of Skyward Sword temples, the Skyward Sword statues of the goddess, which, by the way, Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword are the only two games that have anything to do with Hylia. That in and of itself is already tied directly to Skyward Sword. And then we've got Fi or Fi, however we agree on pronouncing her here, making a direct appearance in Breath of the Wild as well. So it's just like if there were two games that Breath of the Wild references directly, it's Ocarina and Skyward Sword.
Yes.
But really, if there was one, it would be Skyward Sword. So I don't know. I think that Demise just needs to have some sort of appearance, even if obviously he doesn't pop up on screen. There's going to be some sort of maybe a voice or maybe a prophecy or an acknowledgement or something that we come across. I think that the origin of the malice is going to be one of the biggest things about this game, because let's be honest, we still don't know what the heck it is or where it comes from.
Yeah,
we have a lot of theories about malice originates from Demise and his hatred and his malice. There's the namesake right there. But we still don't know, because again, following that logic, malice is what monsters are made of in Skyward Sword. Presumably, that's a theory, because they drop the evil crystals, which are crystallized malice.
Yes.
But that's monsters. Ganondorf is not a monster. He's a human being. He's a Gerudo.
Well, in Skyward Sword, they did, if you, Fi's description of Demise says that he is the origin of all monsters. And you see the malice making them pop up in Breath of the Wild. So, it makes sense.
But, well, it does for what the monsters are made out of. But I guess my main point is that can't come from Ganondorf.
The malice?
You know what I mean? Yeah, because Ganondorf is not a monster.
But he's
at what point...
He's the reincarnation of Demise's hatred.
He is.
And don't you see the malice coming out of his body?
You do, and what I'm saying is that there's something more there.
Oh, right.
I mean, clearly it's So I mean, clearly it is coming from him. I'm just saying that I think one of the things that this game is going to tackle is what it is exactly, and why it's there, why it's now coming out of Ganondorf, stuff like that. I mean, I don't mean to be that guy, but we've never seen it before, and I understand it didn't really exist as a concept until Skyward Sword. But still, like I said, Ganondorf has, he's a reincarnation of Demise's malice, yes, but he's not a monster, like I was saying. He didn't literally get formed out of malice like the other monsters.
Right.
He was born. Yeah, he was born. He's a human. He, comes across enhancements, like the Triforce or like Twilight or the Trident of Darkness or whatever. But other than that, there is no malice. So why now is my question.
I do hope that I hope they get into that.
I think they will. I think it's going to be a point of the game.
My fondest hope is that if they do bring some Demise-related stuff, that they elaborate on why he's so angry. I'm all for resentment towards the gods, but Ganondorf had a more compelling reason to be upset. He was jealous in Wind Waker. They had this more mature Ganondorf that's jealous of the Hylians. He
coveted that wind.
He coveted that wind. Yes. I would like Demise to show why exactly he's so upset. Why does he hate the gods so much? It wouldn't be hard to give him something to be angry about. That's pretty much what I want.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had a video recently that I did where I was talking about that and his parallelism with Hylia, and this is obviously speculation, but one of the, I guess, theses that I have for his hatred is that he despises his own creation.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, if the entire world was created, and this is one of those philosophical things that we could probably talk about in real life, you know, but if you believe that the world was created, right? Obviously not everybody believes that. But given that you do believe the world was created, that means that everything in it was created, including the concepts of opposites, the concepts of up and down, hot and cold, left and right, right and wrong, you know. Everything had to have been created, otherwise, you know, you don't have a creation, you just have a thing, you know, it's just there. In Zelda lore specifically, it's not debatable, obviously, we know that everything was created. So given that these concepts of good and evil were created, we know that the individual who was tasked with upholding the light, Hylia, was placed, they say she was tasked by the goddesses, so yeah, we don't know that she was created by the goddesses, but it's an assumption since they were able to give her a task. So what if Demise was created by the goddesses to embody evil?
Mm.
Because without evil, you don't even have good. You know, without opposites, you have nothing. Without contrast, you don't have color. Without, you know what I mean? So, you know, perhaps he was created to be the eternal struggle. He was never created to win. And perhaps that is why he despises the gods themselves, but obviously that's just a bit of fan fiction if we're being honest.
Yeah, until
but, you know,
until they say something.
Until they say something, because, you know, there's no way of knowing. He's super angry, like you said. So
Okay, yeah, I see that we are out of time, but I think we covered a lot. I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to.
yeah, even non-Zelda stuff like Outer Wilds.
Play it. Especially you, Hyrule Gamer, please.
Oh, it's on
Especially
the growing list of games to play.
Shrink it. And
Shrink
leave
it,
on
yeah.
there. No, I'm just kidding.
Elden
months.
Ring's definitely like top priority right now. That's the one I'm really wanting to get into.
I see.
That's gonna take you. That's if you're gonna play that before Tears of the Kingdom. That,
yeah, that's
it
my
took me
issue.
a while.
That's my issue. I don't know if I should start it now or like leave.
Elden Ring is massive, dude.
It's
Yeah, that's the thing.
huge.
I don't want to get hooked on it
Massive.
like 2 months before Tears of the Kingdom. You know.
You could probably
Yeah.
comfortably beat it in 2 months if you're not playing any other things, and you
Log
but-
on every day.
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
But the problem is like you never know when more Zelda content's gonna get released.
maybe Outer Wilds
and then
is more suited right now.
Average playthrough for Outer Wilds is 16 hours.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more ideal, actually.
Perfect. Perfect. My first Elden Ring playthrough was 250 hours. You don't want to go there.
I think I did get reach endgame right under 100 hours. But I also, I mean, I played it, you know, with people, and I definitely didn't explore quite as much as I needed to. I slowed down a lot, you know, in New Game Plus, stuff like that. Explored different quests, you know, stuff like that.
Well,
I'm
okay.
very excited for the DLC.
Oh, I'm so excited for the DLC. I can't wait for that. Well, anyway, I'll let you both go. Thank you, Hyrule Gamer. Thank you, Bandit Games, for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
It's been a blast.
This has been the Yggdrasil podcast. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.